Paige Joe Sabino, the letterer for Thor, and you're listening to Across the Bifrost.
Whosoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Across the Bifrost. This is the Mighty Thor podcast, where on each and every episode, we explore the world of Marvel's Mighty Thor. Today is one of our special review episodes. We are going to be jumping into the Spider-Verse, talking about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the new offering from Sony's version of Spider-Man. Miles Morales, Gwen Stacy, Miguel O'Hara, Peter Parker, and about a million other Spider people are what we're going to dig into today. We're also going to be reading 5 issues of Brian Michael Bendis's Spider-Man, a limited series from a few years ago, where Peter and Miles team up to fight Mysterio, and they meet the Ultimates, and Nick Fury shows up, and so much craziness is going to happen in this episode today. And riding shotgun with me today is good friend, Thor core member, and fellow Spidey fan, Brandon Bloxdorf from Apollo City Comics. Brando, welcome back to the show, man.
Hello. It's always been too long. No matter, I could be doing weekly episodes with you.
Yeah,
it's been too long.
We have figured that out, that any amount of time is too much time. But man, I'm so excited. We put this together kind of last minute over the weekend. I saw the movie a few days ago. You saw the movie a little bit ago, like opening night. You saw it.
I saw it twice opening weekend. I just couldn't stop.
Holy! So you were one of the people that added to that box office total opening weekend. But I just saw it a few days ago. My son and I went with my dad, and it was fantastic. And I know you're a big fan of the movie. All that Miles and the gang offer us. Are you ready to roll with some Brian Michael Bendis Spider-Man to start?
Oh yeah, either way.
Did I lose you?
Hyped for both. No, I got you.
Okay. My connection is unstable. Oh, this is going to be the shit to edit. Hold on one second. Which routers? Is that better?
It seems better.
Okay. We'll give that one a shot.
Yeah, you're moving clearly now, so that works.
Fantastic. For my previous question, are you ready to jump into Brian Michael Bendis's Spider-Man?
Yeah, dude. I'm a Bendis fan. I will say that I've read enough Bendis to say I'm a Bendis fan. For anyone, a lot of people hate on Bendis. I don't really get why.
I don't get it either.
Hate on Grant Morrison, and nobody shits on Neil Gaiman. To be honest, you can't. A lot of people
not in your presence.
Yeah, not in my presence, motherfuckers.
I will say this. I know a few people that are big Bendis fans. I mean, consistent co-host of this show, Will Rose, big Brian Michael Bendis fan. We talked briefly beforehand in our pregame episode, which Thor core members can get on Patreon right now. We talked a little bit about kind of why Bendis, why he fits for certain things, like what he's good at, and what we really enjoy about his writing. This 5-issue limited series that we're going to touch on is really the time that Peter and our Peter Parker from 616 meets Miles Morales from the Ultimate Universe, and it's a big crossover, but it doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is finally happening. It's like, oh yeah, of course these guys were going to meet up at some point. You might be wondering, listeners, you are tuned into a Thor show, and I know recently, like we did our Iceman episode with Cena Grace a week or two or so ago, and you're like, well, there wasn't a lot of Thor in that episode. And like, there's going to be a little bit of Thor in this episode, and it's the Ultimate Thor. Brandon, I know you're an Ultimate Universe fan. You enjoy those stories. What can you tell us about the Ultimate Universe? And maybe what, like, say someone who's listening right now has never read Ultimate Universe Marvel stuff. What would you tell them to kind of get their appetite going for this kind of subset of comics?
The Ultimate comics are kind of like the adult Marvel, to be honest. Like, Marvel Knights was a bit more mature for sure.
Yeah, a little bit.
Heavy, yeah, a little bit. Yeah, that Marvel Knights was like, it's kind of like Marvel Knights. It's a continuation of that adult theme, where everything started changing in the comic book industry in the 80s, where it got darker and characters got more serious and kind of a bit more grounded. Literally so, especially with that Ultimate Thor, where he doesn't really, not really actual Thor, but like I think he is actual Thor, but he comes off as somebody who's insane. And he even needs a belt to like fly and everything. He doesn't really have some of the powers.
Yeah,
So,
there are some significant changes to that Thor if you're only used to the main universe Thor.
and that's the thing about him too, is that like it's more adult because they literally think he's like psychotic. They literally think he has mental issues and he doesn't know who he truly is. So like there's a lot of heavier themes and darker themes in that, but they also change a lot of like Thanos is dramatically different in Ultimate Universe. A lot of those things are way, way different. So if you kind of don't want your typical X-Men or your typical Fantastic Four or your typical Avengers, like go check out the Ultimate stuff, because that's Mark Millar, and Mark Millar does write some pretty graphic stuff.
Yeah.
And he always gets a bit more violent. Bendis really big on character building. Bendis was doing a lot of Spawn stuff right before this, and Sam and Twitch and whatnot. And his Bendis's style of that conversational comic book reading, back and forth banter.
Oh
which
yeah.
is very I that's what I like about it personally.
Right.
Writing, that's what draws me to it, because when you listen to a conversation or a podcast and we're doing this back and forth conversation, that's exactly how Bendis writes. And I admire that because he analyzes speech and speech patterns. And that's what's interesting to me about it.
I think he is one of those masters of giving characters unique voices. And it's crazy. We read the voices into the characters. Like, we don't know what the characters are supposed to actually sound like, but when you read a Bendis comic, it's like, oh man, I feel like I know these characters. I feel like these are familiar, the familiar tones and dialogue. It really is enjoyable reading.
Sucks you in like you were just hanging out with a bunch of friends. You know what I mean? Like, you're so much more personable, I feel, than a lot of other comics. 100%. Feeling more connected is a great way to say it.
So
But
let's jump into
Ultimate stuff real fast.
Yeah.
Darker stuff, a bit more meat on the bones, but it is very different from your typical origin stories and everything that you might be familiar with. But I think if you are a fan of Marvel, or maybe if you're just not enjoying some Marvel, dip your toes into some Ultimate stuff. Read the Ultimates. I mean, they're quick volumes. I think they're both like 12 issues each or something. If you don't dig the first issues, just stop. But I mean, I've read all of the Fantastic Four, all of the Spider-Man up until the Miles Morales, because I'd read so much I was just fried out. But I want to get to Miles Morales.
So let's jump into Brian Michael Bendis's Spider-Man 1 through 5. We're just going to hit the highlights and tell you what we enjoyed about this and why we think it's a worthy companion piece to go read along with your enjoyment of these Sony Spider-Man movies. So the story is really simple. Peter Parker is swinging around New York. He loves New York. He talks about how much he loves New York. If New York was a girl, he would go on a date with her.
I love
and
that.
He is sucked into a dimensional portal put together by Mr. Mysterio, Quentin Beck. And Mysterio is never up to any good. And Spider-Man thinks this is kind of just a run-of-the-mill plot that he's thwarting, but he gets sucked into the Ultimate Universe and is...
Real fast, with this like intro, it kind of reminded me of the Mysterio plot in the second Spider-Man film. I don't know what the fuck that one is.
That when you talk to people enough, listeners, you kind of can tell where they're going with something. Because I was just about to mention that. I was like, if you're familiar with the live action Sony MCU related films, this probably sounds really similar. Because Quentin Beck, Jake Gyllenhaal's character in that film is very similar to this character, where he's trying to bring things in from another universe, but then you realize, oh, he's Mysterio. It was all a hoax, the whole time. But Peter Parker from our 616 universe meets up with Miles. They have that classic Marvel misunderstanding fight where they don't know who the other person is. And if you're familiar with the Ultimate Comics, Miles Morales, Spider-Man information, Peter Parker is dead in that universe. And people know that he is Spider-Man. So when this new Spider-Man shows up, everyone's like, no, not cool, man. Like, these, hey, that guy passed away. He was a hero. Like, you can't be, just
I
swimming
love
around looking like him.
just how much everyone cherishes that Spider-Man so
Right.
much. Like from the girl with the necklace, and he was like, "What does that mean?" And I forgot the direct quote she has, but just that it makes her strong, it makes her
Yeah.
hopeful, and it gets her through and everything. And she's like so tough in that moment too. And you're like, it's because of like Spidey's influence right there. That I love seeing the importance of a character resonate throughout the city like that.
Right. It's we see that in the MCU after Tony dies, where like everyone kind of eulogizes him in this very hopeful, he gave me hope kind of way. It's very similar to how Peter is portrayed in this universe. It's very altruistic and very hope filled when they think of their Spider-Man. In issue 3, Mysterio comes back through the dimensional portal, and he is like, okay, I've got to make sure that Spider-Man is gone for good. I don't have to ruin his life anymore because he's not here anymore. So we get a fight between both Miles and Peter. They team up to fight against Mysterio, and the Ultimates show up, which are the Ultimate Universe's version of the Avengers. We see Thor and Iron Man and Hawkeye, and we see Nick Fury, who is the leader of Shield, and he's the one that assembles the Ultimates. Near some MCU kind of little flavored things.
Big thing too.
Yes.
Ultimate Comics does have the Samuel Jackson, Nick Fury that we're all familiar with.
Yes.
And they did base the comic version off of Sam Jackson years before he got that role.
Which is just so good.
Yeah. And it's so awesome. And so like if that's what you're looking for, because when people see Nick Fury, they're still thrown off because not everyone had read the Ultimate Universe stuff. But
Right.
that is legitimately the Ultimate Universe Nick Fury. And I love it. It's so cool.
And for those of you right now are probably enjoying the Disney Plus show Secret Invasion, we're going to be covering Secret Invasion after the series has concluded, and we're going to be reading some Secret Invasion stuff, some of the Thor tie-ins for that. It's going to be great. So by all means, we are not done with our fill of Nick Fury, Sam Jackson content for this summer. More is coming. I promise you that. Faithful listeners and friends, we get to issue 4 of this Spider-Man run. They've beaten Mysterio. They've they've taken care of his avatar that was projected into the other dimension. And then we get to see really kind of a cool character moment where the Peter from our universe goes and talks to the Aunt May and Gwen Stacy of Miles's universe. And they have a really cathartic conversation about loss and, what's it like there? Like, is there an Aunt May where you're at? Yeah, she raised me. Gwen Stacy is like, is there a Gwen Stacy there? And we know what has happened to Gwen in our 616 universe. Peter doesn't tell her that, but we find out that they're astonished that MJ became a supermodel. There's a lot of different cool character moments in issue 4, and it all sets up issue 5 for Mysterio's last ditch effort to get rid of his Spider-Man, and Miles the Ultimates and Peter thwart his plan again, and Quentin Beck is kept in the Ultimate Universe because he can't be released back into the 616 because he knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Again, another kind of connection to the movie that we got just a few years ago. So Brandon, that was a 30,000 foot flyby view of the storyline. What were some of your favorite parts of this story, and how did this we both enjoyed this story, so how did it resonate with you?
I thought it was a great attempt of putting them together for one of the first times. It's a hard thing to pull off, merging universes and doing that multiverse stuff. Like, not every writer and creator has pulled it off very well, but Bendis, I guess Dan Slott, Grant Morrison, and Scott Snyder, I feel like just did it right. But I think they've analyzed perfect segues to make it make sense and make it digestible. that's the thing with multiverse stuff, is the digestible aspect of it all. But putting the Ultimate Universe together must be a lot of fun for Bendis,
Oh my
because it was the
gosh,
universe
yes.
he created and he got to mess with, and he's like helped save Marvel with that universe. So I love seeing, also because I've read so much of that Ultimate Spider-Man run, I love seeing like him being able to go back to that Aunt May and go back to Gwen and MJ and MJ's reactions and Aunt May's just reactions, and just seeing how different that world was built and how much more beat up and like kind of raw it felt versus the regular universe. And then the differences in the characters, seeing the Ultimates come together for a moment and everything. I think that's just a lot of fun. But the meeting of Parker and Miles,
Yeah.
it's probably one of the coolest moments, because Parker's just like so like, whoa, kid, why are you copying me, down to taking off his mask, and like,
Right.
his reaction of just seeing what this universe had in store for him and what it contained, and just trying to make sense of it all, even like going into a fight and it feeling familiar and good, but then him just like disappearing, and then they end up finding him over at Aunt May's house. I was just like, where else was he gonna go? He checks on his
Right.
apartment, and no, he's like, oh, but fuck, Aunt May. But that's the thing. I don't remember if Aunt May is like alive or dead in the regular Spider-Man series.
At this point, I'm unfamiliar with that as well.
Yeah, so I would hope she's dead in a good way. You know what I mean? Like, she's been around for so long. Like,
Oh my gosh.
just let her rest. Like, she was 80 something when we met her.
Let it be. Let it be heard. Brandon was like, I'm good. Good.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
some people have lived their lives, nothing to be sad about. Let's just be happy. But like, having this younger Aunt May was one of my favorite things too, because she wasn't like the old lady Aunt May that we're kind of familiar with in the other.
Was she Marissa Tomei, Aunt May?
No, not that young, but she
Oh
was
my
around there. Yeah, that was a great interpretation for an aunt and someone that age. You know what I mean? Like,
so Marissa Tomei is like one of those actresses where I'm like, oh, like there was a brief part of my reception that was like, that's not Aunt May. I'm like, thank God that's not Aunt May.
yeah, right. Yeah, the whole storyline in itself.
She, I don't know how old Marissa Tomei is now, but still a certified smoke show.
Yeah.
Like, let's let's not completely derail this to talk about that. We'll wait till the next Spider-Man movie. Oh no, she's dead in the MCU. Oh shit. I totally forgot about that. Oh, wow.
I've only seen that movie once. I saw it once.
Me too. I've only seen it once.
Because that multiverse shit can really go good or bad, and I did not feel like they did it very well in that movie.
Well,
I didn't really care for
multiverse stuff. Like you said, multiverse stuff is very difficult to balance and make digestible. But in this Spider-Man run that Bendis did, I loved it because the Ultimate Universe is not something I'm overly familiar with. And this made it accessible, like Brandon said, digestible. The appearances of Thor are cameos. The appearances of Iron Man are a little more fleshed out. He has a little bit more to do with the plan that they're gonna thwart Mysterio with. But I love digging into this universe where so much is familiar, but it's not predictable to the point where I know kind of part and parcel what's going to happen next, because you can do so much with a kind of, to me, it's like you have a toy box full of all your favorite action figures, but you get to write your own original interpretations of them. And that, to me, it's like fan fiction on a different level. Mm-hmm. And it's reimagining these characters for a different reason, purpose. And I think Bendis and, like you said, Mark Millar, like they're wizards at doing this. And I really enjoyed dipping my toe into this combination, this crossover. For those of you out there that might be wondering, like, are you ever going to cover the Ultimate Thor on Across the Bifrost? It has been talked about on several accounts. We might do like a miniature creator spotlight kind of look at the Ultimate Thor. So those of you that have that appetite for it out there, we are going to cover it at some point. And I know I say that about a lot of things, but everybody, there's over like 4,000 appearances of Thor in Marvel Comics, and that's just like the main guy. Like, so We may never get to all of it, but we'll try to get to most of it. So, Brandon, do you have any other thoughts on Bendis, this storyline, anything kind of Ultimate Universe related before we take a brief break and then jump into Across the Spider-Verse?
I think Bendis is just a great world builder, and I just think it's worth the shot. And I guess it's a book that you could definitely jump into and at least enjoy and get what's going on. If you want to just explore like these two characters together as one, especially with the new game coming out, maybe that's some incentive to check out this series as well. But Bendis is also a producer on like Into the Spider-Verse and everything. He works a lot with them, so if you like shit like that, that's a great point to just like check out some of this, or check out some of the early Ultimate Spider-Man in general. Pretty cool stuff. But I love this book. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad we read it. But I will say the sequel doesn't resonate with me as much as this first volume. I just read them both just out of curiosity. But that one I feel might need some more digging. But this first one, solid stuff and great cliffhanger.
I do think I'm glad you mentioned that too, because sometimes a bad sequel can leave a bad taste in your mouth. There was one other person I wanted to highlight in the history of Miles Morales. We've said Bendis' name like 1,000 times, but also Sarah Pichelli.
Yeah, Sarah Pichelli.
Also incredible artist. Like the style that she draws with, the style that she creates in these panels, it's so clean and cool and smooth. And I love her fight scenes, because there's some like silly like thwack big punches, like kind of like classic hokey gold age, silver age stuff, but then like the way that she draws anatomy is so smooth and cool. And I think maybe she doesn't get as much hype and as much appreciation nowadays, but if you want like some peak comic stuff, like go read Bendis, go read Sarah Pichelli. Like Sarah Pichelli right now, I believe she did the first arc of the current Scarlet Witch series from Steve Orlando. Russell Dodderman covers like that. Oh my gosh,
that's right.
That series
must be a great book. Yeah, Orlando's great.
It is an all-star cast writing a character that is incredibly slept on in comics, incredibly slept on. So
it's crazy, because I know it's not doing the best in sales right now too.
Well, people need to get their heads out of their asses about it then, because this creative team deserves to take Wanda on whatever journey she, whatever story they want to tell with Wanda, they should be able to tell it to its fullest. So go buy an issue of Scarlet Witch, people. Good grief. Everybody, we are going to take a brief, a minute break to tell you what we've got going on Patreon right now. And then we're going to come back, and Brandon is going to give us everything he's got when it comes to Across the Spider-Verse. And I'm going to try to keep up. So everybody, we'll see you back in just a few seconds. Hey there, friends. Just wanted to remind you all that we do have a Patreon over at the Across the Bifrost Patreon. The link in the episode description. You'll find bonus episodes, early episodes, and a fun little series that we're doing right now. While the new episodes of Secret Invasion are coming out every Wednesday, I've been hopping on and doing instant reactions for those, about a 15 or so minute episode where I just give you my first impression thoughts of those episodes. We are going to cover that in a more long form coverage at the end of the show, where we're going to tie it together with some Secret Invasion Thor comics. But that is kind of the current bonus episode series we're doing. We're also starting to do these pre-game episodes where, before we click record on our conversations with our creators and our friends that stop by the podcast, we tend to ramble a little bit before we get started. So we've been packaging that as a pre-game episode for you all to enjoy, to just get to know us a little bit better and to enjoy the witty banter that we enjoy. So that's some of the stuff that we're doing right now on Patreon. You can expect if you go join the Thor Court today and join the fantastic group of supporters that we have over there. People like Will, Joshua, Eric B, Phil, Drew, Trip, Haley, Joseph, Jason, Eric T, Brandon, and our lone listener prime level supporter, the Burt Zerker. You all are awesome. We love you all so much. Your support means the world to us, and we hope you're enjoying all the content that you're getting over there. And for what it's worth, we hope you're enjoying being appreciated by us as we continue to put this show together and just continue to love doing it. So thank you all so much. Let's get back to the rest of our conversation with Brandon about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Okay, everybody, we're back, and we are going to jump into on Across the Bifrost. We are going to go across the Spider-Verse, and we're going to jump into the latest offering from Sony, from Miles Morales, from Gwen Stacy, and all of the spider persons of the multiverse. So this movie picks up where we left off from the first movie. The first movie kind of feels like almost a bottle episode until, you know, that Spider-Man 2099 tease at the end. So we jump into this one, and really it's very Gwen forward. At the beginning, we see how Gwen is dealing with being apart from Miles. Spoiler alert, she's not dealing with it well. And when we jump over to Miles, and Miles is also doing equally just kind of not well. He's living life, but they both miss each other. And there is some interdimensional shenanigans that start to happen. The Spot, classic Spider-Man villain and Miles Morales' arch nemesis, the Spot, shows up. The Spot has a very unique power where he can make little just holes out of there's a lot of jokes made about this, where he can make these holes where he can stick his arm through, or he can throw things through these holes, and they come out at another spot, you know, around him or in another dimension. We learn that his powers get amplified to a crazy degree in this film. He is a joke villain that becomes anything but a joke by the end of this film. And there's a lot in here, so I'm not going to pretend that I remembered every single story beat, you know, exactly how it happened. We get to the point where Miles and Gwen meet back together in Miles's universe, and Miles just wants to be with her, and Gwen is actually in his universe to track down the Spot and complete a mission for the Spider Society. When Gwen's mission is done, she goes back to the Spider Society, and Miles is like, nope, I'm gonna go with. So he jumps into the portal. They're dropped, I guess. Yeah, dropped into a different dimension where Spider-Man India shows up. And for the life of me, Brandon, I can't remember that character's name. But they have an adventure there, and they stop the Spot in that dimension. We find out there are these canon events that have to happen in every Spider-Man story, and Miles, in an effort to save people in this dimension, he thwarts a canon event, kind of like the Nexus events, like in the Loki TV series. They're very pivotal moments that have to happen, or they're very significant for different reasons. Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099, shows up and basically shuts down Miles, and they take them to the Spider Society. A ton of stuff happens at the Spider Society. So we'll talk about that, you know, back and forth with Brandon. And eventually Miles, he goes back to his what he thinks is his own dimension to save his father, because in every Spider-Man story, a captain in the police department or law enforcement close to them dies. It's a fixed point in all of their stories. And we find out at the end, the cliffhanger, the Empire Strikes Back, Luke, I am your father moment, is that Miles is not in the right dimension. He thinks that he went back to his home universe, and it turns out he is not where he belongs. And he runs into his uncle Aaron, who has been secretly training and I guess emboldening a other dimensional Miles Morales, where that Miles Morales is the Prowler. So Oh my gosh, so much. And I'm probably going to reference Empire Strikes Back a few times, Brandon, because it felt very second act cliffhanger. The bad guy's going to win kind of twist at the end. But I know you have about a billion thoughts about this movie. So I'm going to just like I do sometimes with my dog in the backyard. I'm going to let you off the leash, Brandon. And we're going to let you run wild and chase down whatever thing you want to chase down, man. Give us your thoughts about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Well, if you want to hear my first initial thoughts, you can check out our Apollo City Comics episode where Alex and I break that down. I'm gonna throw
Yes,
that in
go
right
check
now.
that. We'll put a link in our bio, link in our episode description where you guys can go check out Brandon's his first impressions of the film. You've had a little bit of time since you saw it.
So I don't want to cover too much that I even talked about in that episode. Alex and I really go into a lot of cool stuff, and he opened my eyes to a lot of things I didn't even realize or see within the movie because he loves that fucking movie so much.
Yeah,
and I love it as well. But I want to mention a couple of things because I've actually been doing a lot of research, and I am a Spider-Man fan. I don't know if do you use video?
No, I don't.
Okay, cool. Well, I mean, because I didn't set up my background, so I'm glad.
Everybody, he wants you to see his face. He wants you to see all of his cool books.
My action figures, actually. That's what
I know. I see your King in Black Venom too. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Oh yeah. I got those.
That is a sick Funko Pop.
It's so rad. But I made a little Spider-Verse myself with some of my Spidey action figures.
I love that.
I got the Ben Reilly. I got like the original Ditko one, the standard one. I got the symbiote. I'm a Spidey fan, and Spidey's always been like a comfort read for me. That's why I was able to binge all of Bendis's Ultimate Spider-Man, and it's because of that series that I'm really a Spider-Man fan. But Into the Spider-Verse is just so interesting because it's really Gwen's movie. In a big sense, it starts and ends with Gwen. That's why we know it's Gwen's movie. You know, that's kind of a big centerfold into everything. Phenomenal. I can't express like Gwen's presence and whatever 2 years of recording her lines. What's her Hot Girls, not Hot Girls. What's her
Haley Steinfeld.
Haley Steinfeld. There you go.
Yeah,
all right, cool.
yeah.
I was almost there. Yeah. What's her name?
Did you literally just describe Haley Steinfeld as like who's the hot girl?
Yes, I totally. What's her character in Hawkeye?
She's Kate Bishop.
Kate Bishop. God damn. I could not think of Kate Bishop for some reason, and I love that Hawkeye series. Anyways, I mean, I love what they did with her as a character because they made her. There's a lot of controversy. It's actually not too controversial, to be honest, which I'm kind of glad about. But I kind of want to say it on this show as well. We did mention it in ours in Apollo's, but there's a big trans statement going on with Gwen. And I feel like everyone, the color scheme that's going on, the artistic style is just over the top with this whole movie. Let me just start there. That they cross barriers that's never really been done before in art forms. Because in comics, you figure you could do fucking anything you want in a comic book, right? You could draw anything. In film, you can make anything move at the pace you want, which can be fast or slow. But in comics, you could determine your own speed. And through comics, you could have different mediums kind of go on, or different artists be in one book, and that changes the textile of everything. In this movie, they layer stuff so much and they use so much mixed media that it is beyond what you could do in a comic. You would have to match what you did in this movie in a comic book. You would have to have like a physical book that had different mixed media that was still a comic and done where everybody draws on the same panel, literally. Like that's what you would have to do to like mimic what this film did. And that's what tripped me out the most, because everything they put into it and everything that changes every half a second and the layers behind it. Although my only complaint about Spider-Verse overall is that when you're done watching it, you're kind of fatigued. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, a little.
Yeah,
it is a visual spectacle. It's entertaining and the story is good. Like here, if this were done in a less provocative style, I don't think it would be as amazing.
Mhm.
Like, but it's because of the art forms they choose. It's the tones, and hell, even like the way they color certain characters within the same scene. Not a different scene, not different characters. Every scene with Gwen and Captain Stacy,
Mhm.
the tones and the hues and the colors they choose second to second, not minute to minute, like second to second, they're choosing. They tell as much of the story as the dialogue does.
Mhm. And just like a comic does, you know what I mean?
Right.
That's how you could do that. And you could probably watch this movie on mute and still figure out what's kind of going on.
Oh,
and pay
yeah.
attention to, like,
Oh,
what's
yeah, for
going
sure.
on with the textures.
Yeah.
Which leads into that whole trans statement. And I feel like, I don't think that Gwen was trans in the movie because that would cause too much controversy. But what they did is deliver a message to a group of people that made them feel comfortable and confident and related to and seen and heard without distracting you that Gwen can be trans. I feel like if they would have directly said that Gwen is trans, everyone would have been freaking out on the internet and covering up the true message of that scene. But in
Right.
fact, they kept Gwen who she is, but delivered a statement through the colors, through the backgrounds, through the textures, through that speech. The speech is between her and her dad, and that, that conflict between them. And they delivered that message so well that they didn't need to change anything about their background or who they were, because that message reaches people so hard. And I felt like that was a moment in both cinema and like comic book history that like just hits so hard, because I love comics that reach out to me and deliver a message. I love movies that do that. We talk about The Craft and all that type of stuff all the
Right.
time. And I feel like this was a great way to deliver that message without distracting you with what could stir up people to start controversy. I don't know what you think about that, but that was my thoughts about it.
Oh, I definitely do. And to the extent that a straight white guy in his early 30s can think about that, I think of it for myself, like raising my kids. Like I have a 5 and 6 year old. And I look at this movie and the messages that it gets across, and I think as a parent, I'm like, yeah, I fully am behind this. I'm fully, well, really, even as a parent, seeing how Captain Stacy of all people grows throughout this movie. And because at first he's scared.
Yep.
Like being a parent who is scared to lose, you're fearful, you don't want to suffer loss again. Like Peter was like a son to him. And he doesn't want to experience that loss again. So what does he do? He tries to track down this Spider Woman because that will give him a certain level of redemption. If he can stop anyone else from being hurt or being killed or suffering a loss like that, he can vindicate the loss of Peter. But in so doing, he runs the risk of losing Gwen. And at the end, we get that fantastic moment where he embraces her, embraces all of who she is, both the superhero, the daughter, the friend, the human being. Gwen Stacy is fully received by the one person in her life that honestly she ran the risk of losing because of his fear. And I loved that. Like, when I went to see, somewhat related, when I went to see Guardians, I was like, Drax was my favorite part because he's a dad. Like, there's a part in there for me. And I loved that, walking out of the movie, I was like, did I just relate the most with Captain Stacy? It's like, I don't know if that was the desired mainstream effect, but
That's
and
really
even
cool,
like,
though. That's
even
because
my,
I had I don't have kids. I have animals, like, and that's so cool. I didn't even consider that aspect of just like looking into it. So I love hearing your point of view behind that.
and even with Miles's parents, like Miles's parents are phenomenal, like phenomenal depictions of supportive and supportive, but also kind of scared. Like, they don't know what's going on in their son's life. And Miles is protecting that identity for the reasons that he believes he has to. But his parents never stop pursuing him as their son, as the young man that they want him to grow up to be. We even see that in the conversation between the I can only think of Rachel Dratch is the one that voices her, but the principal or whatever the character is at the school saying like, oh, you could go to Princeton, and his mom says, well, that's in New Jersey. He's like, that's New Jersey, like it's not that far away. She's like, oh well, anywhere out of Brooklyn is too far away. And watching his parents come to the realization, like if their son is going to do something truly great, truly significant, and truly live out to his fullest potential, it might mean them being uncomfortable with how much distance is created between them. And there's just so many points of that, like as a parent, I love. And I'm sitting there with my son who is 5 years old, and he is a creative himself. I mean, literally in the other room, he's drawing comics right now. Maybe you've got a future artist, variant cover artist for you, Brandon. But I view that as a parent, and we took my dad with me to the movie. My dad does not like superheroes. I did not get my love of superheroes from my dad, but I did get my love of good storytelling from my dad. And there were several points in the movie where I am at an animated superhero movie. And I know that's a completely reductionist view of what this is, but I looked over at my dad several times. I was just like, I love you. Like, thank you for being who you were as a parent, as a father, as a mentor, to where, I'm picking up on these moments for the benefit of myself, but also the benefit of the 5-year-old boy that is sitting in between us. That's how I interpreted Across the Spider-Verse. And I think that's the beauty of this is Brandon can't have that. I mean, as a son, you can. Like, I know you and your dad have a great relationship. Like, but there's layers to this movie, and that was the lens through which I viewed the movie. Brandon, I know I just went on a completely fixated tangent there,
because I was just captured by the message from like the daughter to like the world, and you were captivated by the father's message and interpretation. That's cool shit. That's great. And I mean, that's the cool thing about Gwen's story is that like it's so complex and it's so real and it's so relatable. And when you have truth behind things, that's when it resonates with the most people. And that's how you capture multiple audiences instead of one specific type, as Rob was kind of thinking in that sense. That's cool. I mean, Gwen's performance, magnificent. I loved it. I wanted to talk about the 2099 Spider-Man too.
Yes, let's talk about Miguel.
And
Oscar Isaac.
Dude, Oscar Isaac kills it in superhero movies, honestly. He really fucking does. And I started reading the 90s, 1992, which is basically Batman Beyond. Not gonna lie.
Right.
1992 right. Batman Beyond started. When you look at the backgrounds and textures and everything behind it, it's Batman Beyond, and it's like Terry. You know what I mean? And I love that. But so I was really confused about the whole like girl thing that he was talking to and where that came from and whatnot. But that in the comics, in his apartment, you have this like hologram that like does all like answers all your messages, does this, does that, and then she ends up falling in love with Miguel, and there's all this stuff. But that's like his like digital sidekick, like that's in the future where you kind of have that. So thinking back, because I didn't read these comics until after my second watch. Thinking back to it, it's cool because in the comics she's like a total like babe. Like she's what's that movie? Roger Rabbit, basically like that.
She's Jessica Rabbit.
Yeah, she's basically Jessica Rabbit in like this hologram form. And in this one, it was just so much more adorable and relatable. I love what they did with it.
Yeah.
And even in Spider-Verse, the Superior Spider-Man creates a version of that. And it's like a little girl version. I think it's like maybe his daughter or something. And I thought that was a cool little tug towards. And you see, what's cool is that it took me some like analyzing, because I watched the first movie before I saw the second one just to refresh. It's been a while. And you see how he looks in the end of Into the Spider-Verse, and he's very thin, looks like a Spider-Man.
Right. He is not bulked out like he is in this
movie. And once you figure out, because he's supposed to be like the bad guy and whatnot, he's supposed to be the antagonist and all this, but he's just like a broken hero that
Yeah.
because of everything he became the ultimate version of himself, and that's why he's bigger, more intense, like more, he has more angst because he knows what that defeat is like, and he knows that he's failed and he's trying not to fail, and the pain from not only losing his family and destroying all this and fucking it up, and that guilt, it's eating him alive.
Yeah.
And the fact that like he didn't pay enough attention to one aspect and it got even more destroyed, that's what's hurting him the most as well. And
Yeah.
so I love the character drive and development behind him, and how just accurate it was to the 2099 comics from the Talons. He's not really like he's kind of like a vampire, but he has like, they're spider fangs, so he could bite
Yeah.
and like bite for venom and whatnot. A lot of people relate it to like vampire stuff, but it's really just to like, he bites someone and venom gets in their body and everything.
Hmm.
But Miguel O'Hara, his spider abilities are a bit different because he's just like 50% spider, so not everything is the same as Spider-Man's actual powers.
Okay.
But his suit and everything is actually a suit that he wore when he went to like Mexico one year for the Day of the Dead festival, Day de los
Oh,
Muertos.
fantastic.
And that's where that skull comes from. That skull is really because it's a Day of the Dead, Day de los Muertos. I fucked that up so hard. Skull, like a sugar candy skull almost, and it's like that's how he dressed up that year. And so I just thought, like, once I discovered some of the stuff behind the
Yeah.
2099 Spider-Man, really interested in him, and he was a brilliant scientist that worked for Alchemex, and all this stuff. So I thought that was some cool stuff going on there.
Yeah, and I think Miguel is one of those characters where comic book fans that know about Spider-Man 2099, they've kind of, I hope they feel like a beloved character that's maybe a little lesser known in the wider mainstream has been brought to the screen faithfully. We talked about that really briefly. You said like he's the tortured antagonist hero. He's not a villain. He believes what he is doing is what's best.
Mhm.
And he is trying to right the wrongs that he himself made. So I think it's one of those things with villains that we say, villains believe that they're right. Villains believe that they're right. They just probably take it too far. And I think there's a lot to be said about what Miguel is trying to do. And he's leading this spider society, these multiverse dimension spanning versions of the Spider-Man, kind of trope. Brandon, just to lighten the mood a little bit, what was your favorite other version of Spider-Man in this film? Mine was pretty clear. Like there were two, but
What were yours? What's a pretty clear description for you?
Sad Boy Ben Reilly
Dude, that was my favorite too.
was my
That
absolute
was
favorite. I
absolute
was
favorite,
like,
hands down. Dude, there's that scene where it's a super serious scene, and then all of a sudden he's just like flexing his bicep and checking it out, and then just like he looks back at everybody. Dude, that had me fucking dying. That's what won me over. The 100%.
I need Sad Boy Ben Reilly so much. Like I had said to as we're walking out, I said to my dad, I was like, yeah, that guy was sad and depressed for like 20 years. Like,
I love it.
and I just love
seeing
it.
him just hand on his shoulder, just the pain, like
The
like,
pain.
perfect pose. Just dude.
And I love that they for my son, I love that they put Spider-Man and his amazing friend Spider-Man in there.
Oh yes, that was
Like blink and you miss it. But I was like, buddy, look, and he's like, oh my gosh, like that's his introduction to Spider-Man.
Oh, cool.
So it blew his mind that like the Disney like PJ Masks level Spider-Man was in there. But those are my two favorites. What was your favorite other version of Spider-Man?
Without naming those, because those Ben Reilly was like my top as well.
Oh yeah, it's
I would have to
clearly the best cameo.
Yes, yeah, Andy Samberg killed it in that role.
Oh, so good.
But I really loved, and it was like a very nostalgic thing for me too, because I used to watch these movies or these like clips on like YouTube and whatnot and always hunt them down. But the Lego Spider-Man was
Oh
like, top
my
tier.
gosh.
boop, boop. And it was just like the greatest thing in the world. And a 14-year-old kid who apparently did the trailer of Across the Spider-Verse in Lego form. They saw this and they're like, let's go find this. And it's some 14-year-old kid in Canada. And they went and brought him on, and he animated that himself and gave
That's
it to them.
fantastic.
And it's also the only Spider-Man where you hear Miguel O'Hara be like, or 2099 Spider-Man be like, you're one of our best.
You're one of our best.
Love it, dude. I thought it was like the coolest thing in the world.
It's so good. It's so good. And obviously there's about a billion spider people in this movie. So I'm sure there's tons that we're forgetting. And
well, my other favorite, just to like, I was really happy to see it, and I want to rewatch the show because it's only one season and 13 episodes, was the Spider-Man Unlimited. Because I always thought that was the 2099 Spider-Man. I thought that was future Spider-Man. But in fact, it's Peter Parker, kind of out of the 93 series, going into space across the multiverse, or going into the future. And part of the symbiote, I think, was with him in all this too. But yeah, I thought that was a cool little just top in for everything.
There was so many different great cameos. I mean, and we saw a bunch of the live action Spider-Man. We saw Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Yep. We saw Donald Glover as the Prowler.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Like, I love that.
Donald Glover from the MCU as the Prowler. I'm like, okay, that's amazing. Yeah. And we jumped into the Venomverse like real quick with the bodega convenience store scene. And I was like, okay, this is some like, I mean, there you can chalk it up to fan service, but isn't fan service kind of awesome sometimes? Like, that was just great. It was great because if you know, you know.
That's and
if you don't know, it's still funny. Like, it's still good. You don't have to know to enjoy it, but if you do know, oh my gosh, it sends you into the stratosphere.
Yeah.
And there's so many moments in these movies where like the people that put this together and write these things and do the artwork and assemble the character listing, it's like, yes, people that love this character are going to love this movie because they're going to be here for all the references. Like, let's be honest, superhero comics, mainstream Marvel stuff, like references will always get, it's like an embedded form of nostalgia.
Yeah.
Like, and nostalgia is a powerful drug. Like, you always can, if you throw in like you were saying, like an old cartoon version of a Spider-Man, you'd be like, oh my gosh, I remember Saturday morning cartoons, like, and you have this whole connection to that little brief thing, and it charges you up, no matter what.
Well, when it's done right, you know what I mean? Nostalgia done right, and there's a different, and also multiverse done right. You know what I mean? I will say, I felt that Spider-Man, was it Far From Home? Is that the last one that came out?
Is it No Way Home?
No Way Home? I thought that was just too much fan service and nostalgia like down our throat. And I also thought that Flashpoint was going to be the same exact way. However, I did love Flashpoint. Like, it was
that. So everybody, we're gonna like start to land the plane on Across the Spider-Verse, but I need to briefly just like give you a little bit of a insider view of understanding the mind of Brandon Bloxdorf. We, in our group chat with friends of the show, Faz and Haley Hobbs from Source Pages, we have this group text where they were all going to Flash. I still to this point I haven't seen Flash. Hopefully by the time you are listening to this, I have seen it. I expected Brandon to shit on that movie endlessly.
So did I.
I was like, I'm going to have to leave this group text for a few weeks until this guy has calmed down.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I wasn't excited to see it that night. I was like going in with disappointment, and I went to a 9:30 showing, and I don't stay up that late, and I don't go out that late for anything, and unless it's a concert. And then I was just like, I don't even know if I bought tickets half an hour before I went because there were still seats. And I was like, this is going to be trash, because seeing the trailer, you see Nicolas Cage. Oh, not there was that's a whole different thing. You see Michael Keaton like say some lines that are from the '89 Batman. And I was like, they're already doing the fan service, nostalgic lines that like they're going to shape this whole thing on. They were well placed and well done.
And listeners, friends, I cannot tell you the amount of shot. I was like watching a movie with my wife. We were watching something. I think we might have been watching Queer Eye or something like that. We were just watching something.
Yeah.
I checked my phone and you were like, that was incredible. And I literally had to think, is he messing with us? Because I think you were the first person of the four of
Yeah.
us to see it.
Saw it
And I was
Thursday
like,
night.
okay, this feels like a thing where Brandon's gonna be like, yeah, I loved it. If you like shit, like,
Yeah.
I felt like maybe that was coming, but no, you legitimately loved it.
I
And
still
now
I want to go rewatch it so bad.
I think, and then like Haley loved it, and then Faz loved it, and I was like, okay, fine. I guess I'm odd man out here. I have to actually go see it because I wasn't gonna go see it,
I
and
wasn't
now
either. I was gonna wait.
I'm like, you know what? I've got to go see this. And similarly, when you guys all saw Across the Spider-Verse before me, you were like, you have to go see it, and I was like, I do. I know. I'm gonna get to it. And I think the more I talk about it, the more I listen to other people's interpretation of it, and probably seeing it again will help. Because like I said, I did have a 5-year-old right next to me the whole time who had to go to the bathroom and had to, all that stuff, which we will always have that moment. I love that we got to do that together. But I will say, Brandon, when you get to go see a movie by yourself or like with another adult, it's a little bit more of a focused viewing
Sure.
experience. But any
With
other final thoughts about Across the Spider-Verse? Because then we're gonna wrap up and we're gonna let you tell people what's going on with Apollo City and how people can support and follow you and all those things.
Yeah, just some quick stuff. This is not only was it like multiverse done right and nostalgia done right in this film, it was very well balanced. And what was great was that if relating back to our previous conversation, this is very much ultimate Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and the world he comes from with like his uncle Aaron and being a prowler and all that. That's all ultimate Spider-Man as well. So like going back to that ultimate universe and what's different about it, those are key things that are related to it. So if you want to dive into those ultimate comics, I would check that out. And also this multiverse Spider-Man, I briefly mentioned this, talking about Spider-Man, but we do see a different version of Miles Morales in Spider-Man 2. The Earth where that Peter Parker's from, we see that version of Miles and see why we couldn't find him and why he never really existed until then. And I have to say the movie did a way better job of like presenting that than what we saw there. Like I really wasn't really sold on that version of Miles in the comics. But seeing everyone teamed up, it's going to be really excitement for the game coming out, and it blew my mind.
Yeah, I mind thoroughly blown. We hope that you go see Across the Spider-Verse. And by now, by the time this episode comes out, if you haven't, just wait for it to come out on like HBO or whatever streaming service it's going to be on. Everybody, thank you for riding shotgun with Brandon and I for this review. Before we head out of here, I want to just give Brandon an opportunity to tell you all what he's got coming up on across the across the Apollo City Comics and lesser known comics and just all. You're involved in so many different things. You still have the panel coming up at San Diego Comic-Con.
Oh, actually, unfortunately, that was put on a wait list.
Son
Politics
of
happened.
a
Yeah.
bitch.
Yeah, so that got, I mean, it could switch over, but I'm still going to San Diego. It looks like all that's still panning out, so still be having appearance there and having a variant
Fantastic.
cover of the punk rock anthology that we just put out. It's going to the printer, so everyone should be getting copies within the next couple months. It'll probably be closer to July, August. What has the Kickstarter said fulfillment would be in August.
Yeah.
So lining that up. And then I just got to announce that, Teenage Babylon, the first kind of Ashcan preview issue, that's gonna come out or a preview of it is coming out with Rat Zine. And that's a like a little zine run by Max Flowers and Milo from El Gato Prince, and they are the ones who made the posters for us for the anthology.
Fantastic.
Max had a contribution to the whole anthology as well, and so there's some cool stuff. So you'll actually get, if you check out our Instagram, I posted the cover of this Ashcan, the black and white version, and we're gonna have it colored once the Ashcan does get announced properly. But this is a nice 4-page preview cover, 3 pages. You get to see Christian Lee's art on it, which is phenomenal, and it's very different from Nick. So if you guys read the punk rock anthology and then you check out the next stage of Teenage Babylon, you could see the growth and change of the world and the character, and it worked out really well in this essence. So I'm just really excited that got to be announced today as we recorded this.
Yeah.
But coming up this summer, we're gonna have the Comics Wellspring podcast, Inspired Inc., which I will be hosting, which is a comic book. It's a creator podcast where I just do interviews with people who have printed with Comics Wellspring, and just to help indie creators be inspired and never give up. So
Yeah.
just, it gets hard. There's some victories, but the victories take a while to get to. And we want to help keep creators just inspired and just making art and making their work and not giving up. So this is just a bunch of stories from creators as they've gone through their journey. And I'm really lucky to be able to host that and share that with the world. So that'll be coming out this summer as well.
Oh my gosh, Brandon, you got so many irons in the fire, man.
I do. I don't.
And
So excited.
Brandon is never not busy. We'll put it that way.
Always, check out Apollo City Comics and subscribe
Yes.
to our Patreon if you can, where there's a bunch of new content from anywhere from bonus episodes like the book club to Apollo City Late Night, which is launching soon, to even hiring one of us to edit your project, and you could have us, work with you and be a full-time editor as well. So a lot of wild stuff going on that we're trying to.
Yeah. So we'll put links to several of those things in the episode description, so that if you're listening and one of those things that Brandon was talking about really piques your interest, you can go right to it, check it out. You can go follow Brandon at Apollo City Comics on Instagram and Teenage Babylon on Instagram. So many different ways to keep up to date on what is happening in what I am affectionately calling the Bloxdorf verse. And someday maybe Sony will greenlight across or into the Bloxdorf verse.
I guess it'd be the Blocks first.
But see, then I feel like it's like, oh, is that like a Roblox movie? Like, are a bunch of 10-year-old boys gonna be like, oh my gosh, they're finally making a Roblox movie?
That's how we'll get them in. That's all. Marketing and whatnot.
And they're gonna be like 5 minutes in, what is this shit?
It's like, why is there a guy that turns stuff into weed? I don't get it.
It's just a guy eating mushroom steaks and listening to like punk rock.
Yes, exactly.
But everybody, hey, you can also follow us at Mighty Thor Podcast on Instagram. You can check out our Patreon and be like Brandon and join our Thor Corps. We've got a few different series running right now. We've got some Hercules focused stuff, some Loki focused stuff, and we've been doing pre-game episodes whenever we're able to. We have a pre-game episode of this very podcast conversation, about 20-25 minutes of me and Brandon settling in, and some added stuff about the Bendis run and our opinions on Brian Michael Bendis that you didn't get to hear on this podcast. So check out those things. Again, there will be links aplenty in our episode description. So go click on one. Go click on one randomly and see if that leads you down a path to something that you're really going to enjoy. We think it will. So everybody, for myself, for Brandon, this has been Across the Bifrost, and we hope you've enjoyed this Across the Spider-Verse review. We just hope that until you meet us again aboard the Rainbow Bridge, you do one thing, and that is that you stay worthy. Bum, bum, ba-dum, bum.